Hey everybody, today we are going to learn about a simple geometry basics when it comes to modeling. This tutorial is going to cover how to create simple objects using polygons in Autodesk Maya. We're going to learn how to turn on and off interactive creation. We're going to learn about wireframe, shaded, texture, and lighting modes or views in Maya. We will learn how to customize our polygon primitives, how to move, scale, rotate, and select objects, how to undo, which is a very important thing, how to turn on our wireframe on shaded when moving around in Maya, and then we'll basically break down the simple components that create a 3D shape. All right, let's get started. All right, when it comes to modeling in this class, we will be dealing with polygons. Again, there are other types and other methods of modeling as discussed in lecture notes, but we are primarily focusing on polygon modeling. Again, we will maybe use curves from time to time, but those will be converted to a polygon model. So to create polygons, we're going to go ahead and open up Maya, and we have our custom interface that we've kind of used already. I'm going to go to the polygon menu, and let's go ahead and go to create polygon primitives, and we'll go to cube. Now, a couple of the things I want you to notice in this menu. Primitives is just basically a fancy word for simple shapes. And here are all the basic shapes that Maya starts us with to help us better calculate what we need to do in the scene. You'll also notice that another blue highlight in that menu I have on is the interactive creation button. That is currently checked, and I'm doing this on purpose. I like to turn that off, but I want to show you what it will do. All right, so let's go ahead and select a polygon cube, and it is on your custom shelf, but we remember from the last lesson that we can hold the Control and the Shift key and actually create it on our own custom shelf if we want. So let's look at this interactive creation. If I go ahead and hit cube, it's going to give me an option where it says drag to the base of the grid. So I'm going to use my left mouse button and drag, and then it says drag up to set height. So I can drag it that way. Now, to me, that takes too many steps. For beginning users, I highly discourage this use. It's not a bad thing. It's just workflow-wise. If I want a cube, I just want to click it. I can scale the cube later and shape it the way I want it. I don't need to do that right away. So I'm going to hit delete. So what I do is under polygon primitives, I actually uncheck the interactive creation button, and thus, when I hit cube, I get a cube. And that's really what I wanted in the long run. So that's good to know. All right, so we're going to learn about some of these moving tools first, but let's go ahead and let's use some hotkeys. So currently I have my shaded mode turned on. When you guys, some of you may have this. This is wireframe mode. So let's go ahead and let's turn on wireframe on shaded, which is at the very top of your screen. It's also found in shading, wireframe on shaded, in your panels menu. And to turn on wireframe mode, simply hit 4 on your keyboard. 4 will be your wireframe view. Now I want you to hit 5 on your keyboard with the shape selected. Now you know the shape is selected because you have it turned green. Now in these view modes, I don't need to actually select anything. It will just do it automatically for me. So 4 is wireframe, 5 is shaded, 6 really does nothing, but 6 will display textures when you put bitmap or color images on your file. And then 7 makes it look like it turns all black, but it actually turns on light mode. So down the road when we learn how to light, we'll actually be able to see the light in Maya. So you can kind of see I can turn on the lighting in there. And 7 will do that. Again, 5 is shaded mode. You can't see the light. 4 is wireframe mode. And I'm going to hit delete on my light there. So let's hit 5 on our keyboard and stick to the kind of lit mode here. All right. Now, we've created a sphere, or pardon me, not a sphere, but we've created a polygon cube. When we went to create, we saw all these little boxes to the right. What these boxes are, anytime you see them in Maya, are actually option boxes. And they allow us to add more surface options or tool options to that specific selection. So let's go ahead and create a polysphere, but this time let's hit our option box. Now, what that will do is that pops up a tool that will allow us to change our subdivisions. So let's create one by default. We'll just hit create. I'm going to move it to the side. And I'm going to create another sphere with the option box. But this time, I'm going to lower the axes and the height. So what does this do? Well, this is going to actually make it a little more or a little less dense. So you can see, let me put these next to each other. 20 by 20 is a denser mesh than the 10 by 10 mesh. Now, those option boxes are great. I use them frequently. What I do, though, typically do is, and I'm going to reset this setting here, is I tend to do this after the fact. Because a little trick is when you create an object, before you do anything to it, if you navigate to your channel box, which remember is this little tab over here to the right, so if I click on it, it will show up, and I click on Polysphere 3, which this is nicely named, and I scroll down, let me move these so you can see them, I have my axis here. Now you do this process before you start manipulating anything in the scene, but if you do it right away, again, you have a more interactive way, so I can maybe even do 50 and 50 here to make it really dense, of seeing the object at work. So that's under inputs and then polysphere. Now if you want to name your sphere, let's say we want to name this golf ball, in the channels box you simply click once on the P-sphere 3 and type golf ball. And there you have it. So you have a named object, and you can see our polygons have risen quite a bit. So if I took these back down to maybe 18 and 18, notice I can highlight them both. So I simply just drag and then just type a number, maybe 22 and 22. I have a substantially different amount of polygons. The lower the number goes, the lower number of polygons I have, but the less level of detail, or LOD, that you will have in the scene. So it's a very important step in creating your tools. Now I'm using my Alt technique to navigate, my Alt middle mouse button to pan and my Alt right mouse button to zoom in and out. We know that 4 is wireframe, 5 is shaded, 6 and 7 we'll get to later, but they're texture and lighting modes. Now let's learn how to use our toolbar effectively. So right now, if your object is green, we're currently in object mode. Now in object mode, we can click away and we can click back on the object with our left mouse button. If you hit Q on your keyboard, it actually brings up your selection tool. So you can marquee over something and grab the element. Now, if you want to move that, you're going to use the W key. The W key will bring up this GUI. The way I remember this is W is M for move, upside down. So here we have our different axes of movement. So you can see if I move this blue axis, in this case, let me move it so it's set up, it will, when you highlight it, it turns yellow, and it will move in Z space. If I move the Y-axis, which is green, and you see it's down here, it's green in this little cheat sheet, it will go up and down. If I move the red axis, when I highlight over it, it turns yellow. It moves the X values on our grid. Now, we could simply just type, if I highlight these all, I click and drag with my left mouse button, I can type 3, and it will go specifically to that area. So let me do 3 here. There we go. So it'll be 3 in the air, 3 on the side, and 3 going down. So that's all important. I can use negative values here too. So if I move it over here and do -3, you can see where you get it on your view. So again, pretty helpful stuff. The E key, E as in excitement, is the rotate tool, and you can see again that you can rotate uniformly on this element. There you go. You can pose it, you can orient it or tilt it. The R key is your scale key. So again, you can see I can scale the shape in any axis. What I like about the scale key is I actually like the universal scaling in the center. That makes it big or small. To do that, you can also just left click and drag and then type a number, for instance 6. Let me zoom out. Now my sphere is really big. At any point, if you don't like a movement that you made, just simply hit the Z key. Z will be your undo. It's the same as doing undo up here. Now it does say Command Z, but if you just keep tapping the Z key, it will work pretty well. So those are your basic movements. Now, what are these polygon objects made up of? Well, in a previous lesson, we kind of discussed that polygons, and I'm going to hit delete just to show you can delete things. Let's create a polygon primitives. Let's do a cube. Let's hit R for scale. Let's scale it a little bit, and then I'm going to hit F. F will focus. It's a good way to remember it. F for focus will focus on your actual element. Let's go ahead and look at how this is built. The way that we model geometry is we add and subtract from previously built primitives. Sometimes we combine them, but we use those tools, those WER tools, to manipulate the parts of the whole. So let's shape our polygon. I'm going to hold my right mouse button down on the green selected polygon. It has to be green. And here I'm going to hold that right mouse button down, and I'm going to get this flyout menu. And this menu is going to give me access to three very important things: edges, vertex, and faces. Yes, there's other things up there, but what you need to remember as a beginner is edges, faces, and vertex. You learned this in geometry, probably in high school. That's how most shapes are made. Vertex are the little dots or the little points. The edges are when 2 points create a line, and then the faces are when, in our case, 3 or 4 lines create an edge. Now, I want you to do some reading on the web course to make sure that you understand kind of these elements. All right, so let's go ahead and let's just select a vertex. Let's select this one over here. Now, what I did was I right-clicked and highlighted vertex, and you see they show up. And I'm going to left-click and marquee over the vertex and hit W. Now, I can move this vertex the way I want it. I can hit Z to undo. I can right-click and go to face, and let's select this face. And I'm going to hit the R key for scale, and I'm going to scale it from the middle down. Then the W key and move it inward. Now we're creating a nice kind of polygonal shape. I can't say that word. All right. This is the basis of all modeling. You can do the same with edges. So if you grab an edge and you want to pull it down, if you want to scale it, it could work. It depends what you're making. There we go. We have our wireframe on shaded turned on. If we don't, it's kind of hard to see, so I like to turn that on. We have vertex. Now, if we want to grab more than one vertex, we hold the shift key, we get an add symbol, and then we can scale just those in. If we want to subtract, we still hold the shift key and take away one, and then continue to model. These are all really nice steps in order to kind of get your modeling process to where you want it to be. Right? And this is before we haven't really added anything. We're just kind of manipulating that original cube. All right, we can still see we have the same 6-sided quad-based cube. There we go. So, you know, if we really wanted to, we could model it back. One of the cool tricks I like to use when I'm working is if I want to make something flush, I'll highlight multiple areas and I'll hit R. And I'll actually just use those. Use the scale tool. I pull one part of the scale tool down and it will straighten them up. So I can straighten these out on top of each other. There we go. And you can see it will straighten it out. And this is a good technique to practice now rather than later. It's useful, again, if you're just trying to continually have balance. It looks like I'm still off here. I think it's on my bottom ones. There it is. Yeah, it's helping. So now I have kind of a cube again, which is nice. Looks like the top one needs some work too. Just pull it down, and it kind of flattens everything out. And before you know it, if I do it all together here, let's make it just a little bigger, I have a cube. I'm going to go to modify and I'm going to center my pivot. So now I can scale it from the center of the cube. So that's modify, center pivot. It's another one you want to remember. All right, so this is the basic understanding of manipulation using your WER technique, as well as your right mouse button, vertex, face, and edge technique. This is the basic how to create a polygon lesson. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Look forward to talking to you in the next lesson.